Excuse me, sir, can we help you?
You know circuses?
1931. It was the Benzini brothers.
That's the most famous circus disaster of all time. Are you telling me that you were there for...
Right in the middle of it. I don't know if I picked that circus. But something told me that circus picked me.
You first discovered The Water for Elephants book when your wife introduced it to you? Was that
I did,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
My wife read the book and knew that I always wanted to do a movie about a circus.
Yeah.
Thought the story was great, so she passed it over my way.
Yeah. What were some of your first impressions upon reading it? Did you like immediately think it would make a great movie?
I did. You know, it's one of those books that's kind of written like a movie. It's a very visceral and visual experience, and it's really detailed and textured and. You know, Sara Gruen really built an amazing world that you kind of feel like you're living in for a while, which is great.
How involved were you in the writing, helping write and develop the screenplay, and tell me about the process of bringing it from the book to the screenplay?
I was very involved. I didn't write it myself, but I worked very closely with the writer, Richard LeGravenese, and he started probably in January of, I think, 2009. And, you know, after about 8 weeks or so, had his first draft. It was, you know, really long and had kind of everything in it. And then he and I started working really closely together after that and, you know, whittling it down and picking what things we wanted to keep in and what things needed to drop away and refining things and starting to work on the character and making some of the big moves of, you know, we combined a couple of characters, but we did all of that together over the course of, you know, a couple of months.
One thing that I really loved about the book and that I think came through really well with the movie is how slowly and tenderly the romance between Jacob and Marlena develops. I feel like there are a lot of movies that really rush or jump into those relationships really fast. Do you want to tell me how you, as the director, kind of developed the chemistry between Robert and Reese and developed the pacing of that relationship?
Well, I think a lot of the love story, you know, started from the script phase, and I know Richard and I really worked on the love story. You know, there's a lot of different little stories that are happening within, but the core, you know, support of the whole movie is the love story between Jacob and Marlena. And we really worked on the development of that. And we quickly learned that, you know, Jacob, Rob's character, Jacob, falls really quickly in love with Reese's character, Marlena. But it takes a lot longer for Marlena to kind of come around to Jacob. And that's a structure that I started to really like and think that was really interesting for the movie. Because typically people fall in love very quickly, you know, early on in movies, and then somehow the forces work against them so they can't be together. And the truth is here, it's through the course of the movie and through the trauma that they experience together, that's what brings the two of them closer and closer together until, you know, 2/3 of the way through the movie, they finally decide that, you know, for the first time that they really want to be together.
Are there any parts of the book that you weren't able to put into the movie, but you really wish you could have, or that you were considering keeping, but then for whatever reason realized you had to keep out?
No, I mean, look, there's, you know, there's always these great little details that are in certain things that you wish you could keep from the book that I enjoyed. But I think for the most part, all the big, you know, kind of tentpole scenes and sequences from the book are there. You know, we had to unfortunately lose a lot of the older Jacob sequences in the nursing home, but that's just, you know, when you're, you know, taking down a 14-hour read to a 2-hour movie experience, you have to, something has to go away.
Yeah. I really liked how you decided to bookend the film with what ended up being the ending of
that was something that we decided on very early on, was to bookend the movie with older Jacob and at the circus, the modern day circus already. And then the rest we decided to really just focus on that story in 1931.
Tell me a little bit about the research that went into this film, developing this world and this period piece, kind of. I mean, Sara Gruen had already done a lot of research. What did you do as the director?
Yeah, Sara did a bunch of research for the movie, and she obviously knew a lot more about circuses than we all did when we started the movie. But then we went through our own process of research, and that's, you know, quite honestly one of the, you know, the most fun things you can do, you know, when you get to make movies, is you get to sort of go dive in and live in these worlds you wouldn't normally have anything to do with. And so we lived in the circus for, you know, a year and a half. And we went to, one of the first things we did was we went to this place called the Circus World Museum in Baraboo, Wisconsin, which is the old wintering grounds of Ringling Brothers, and it's now a museum, and they have a great archive. And so we went there and met with a bunch of people that really live and work there and know the circus all the way back from when circuses first started. We got our circus wagons from there. We looked at old movies from 1930s circuses, you know, from Ringling circuses to second-rate circuses, and we, you know, learned how trains were put together, how many train cars would our circus have, what order are the train cars in, what do the train cars look like depending on who you were and what you did in the circus. And you know, it was just a lot of fun to go into the real great detail.
Your previous feature films before this, I feel like are, you know, kind of darker than Water for Elephants. Well, Water for Elephants definitely has its dark moments and its dark sides. It's lighter, you've got a romance at the center of it. What was it like transitioning to a movie like that?
I don't see, it's you know, it's interesting. I mean, I know that people see them as very different movies. For me, there's very similar qualities. I think that, you know, I love building worlds. This is the world of circus in the 30s. I Am Legend was building, you know, the apocalyptic world of what happens to, you know, a city after everybody dies and what is it like to live by yourself. But they're also both stories that have kind of rich emotional values within them so that you can go through and experience lots of different things, you know, wonder and magic and be scared and thrilled and cry and maybe even laugh a little bit. And that's kind of what I really like about movies. But thematically, I wanted to do something that was a little more hopeful and something that was a little more positive. And I was looking to do something that was a little less nihilistic. And also not as much of a genre movie. I wanted something that had a broader appeal, and I was ready to move away from anything having to do with, you know, monsters in any way.
Yeah. And the last thing I wanted to ask you was, are there any other books out there that you would like to adapt to a film that would be kind of your dream book?
Well, you know, I just got attached to a book called Unbroken, written by Laura Helen Brown, that just came out. It's in the New York Times top bestseller list. That tells the story about Lou Zamperini, who was a really fantastic track runner in the 30s and then went to World War II and just had this incredible story of survival during World War II.
Are there any others, any classics you want to try too that...
No, not right now. No, not all the classics have been made, you know. I don't want to do any remakes.
Yeah.